Different type of video for you today, guys, as we go on a little trip down memory lane for myself. You know, as a Brit living here in the States or in Florida, I often get asked what brought me here in the first place and where I'm from, and was it always part of my plan to move here, and really just asking questions about my circumstances. I get asked this pretty much on a weekly basis, so it made me realise I've never actually really discussed this before, and if you're intrigued to learn about my background and my journey, my story of how everything came about, of me living here in Florida, then stick around. This is going to be a bit of a longer video than my usual ones, but there's a lot of things to discuss, so let's go over it. And where better to be recording this video today than Sarasota, my favourite Florida city bar none, and somewhere that I'm very blessed to call home these days in this gorgeous weather that we have. But what did I know about Sarasota in 2012 when I met my American wife in the UK? I knew absolutely nothing, and to be honest, I knew very little about Florida. I'd been to Miami for a long weekend on the way to South America for a wedding, so I knew a bit about Miami, but I knew nothing about Sarasota or Tampa. A bunch of my friends had been to Orlando, to Disney World, but I'd never been, and places like Daytona and Nassau, and obviously I'd heard of them. Didn't know where they were on the map or anything more than that. I knew that Florida had a beautiful climate, but that was all that I knew about Florida, and I had absolutely no idea that Florida was going to be my world and my future and probably my forever home at that point. So anyway, back to the start. 2012, I met Carolyn in Scotland, of all places. She was visiting a friend that she had met over here in Florida, and she was going to visit her for the first time, and she lived in Glasgow, and I was up in Glasgow. I'm English, but I was up in Scotland for a weekend for a stag do, which is like a bachelor party, and I was with about 20 friends of mine. Bit of a messy weekend, you could say, and I met Carolyn in a bar there called Lloyd's Bar, which is in George Street in Glasgow, and it is now called the Society Room. And we actually went back there for the first time last summer, because we were there, going back there, taking the kids and everything, and showing them just the UK, and yeah, we went back there. It's now a Wetherspoon pub called the Society Room, but that was where we met, and we exchanged numbers. Didn't get to see her for the rest of the weekend, and a week later, when I went home, when we both went home, we were FaceTiming and keeping in touch, and 6 weeks later, I was flying out to Tampa for a week's vacation holiday to be with her, and little did I know what the rest was going to bring on the back of that 1 week trip. And before we move on too quickly, I am from the south coast of England. I was brought up in a town called Bournemouth. Born in London, I moved to Bournemouth when I was 9. It's a couple of hours away from London, maybe an hour and 3/4 away. And it's a small town, seaside town, very, very lovely there. It's a quieter town. It's coastal, and it's it's in a county, called Dorset, which is very rural. Beautiful part of the world. It's a very slow way of life there. Rolling green hills. You've got plenty of history there. There's a lot of old castles and old towns and villages, and it's just a beautiful place to be. I do miss it a little bit. I don't miss my old life there, but I miss the places and just being able to go out into the countryside. But yeah, you have the Jurassic Coast there. You have Swanage Railway, Corfe Castle. Towns like Weymouth and Swanage, Shaftesbury, just absolutely gorgeous out there. So yes, that is where I'm from. And the other question I always get asked is, who is my soccer team? Who's my football team? And my team is Wimbledon. We are not very well known over here in the States, but we have 4 divisions in the UK, and if you have a bad season, you get relegated, right? When I was growing up, Wimbledon were a great side. We were We won the FA Cup in 1988, and yeah, since then we've kind of gone down and down. And I always get asked, you know, who my team is. Is it Arsenal? Is it Chelsea? Is it Manchester United? Manchester City? You are born with whatever team. You are born into what team you support in the UK. It's a religion, and you should either support your local team or support the team that your dad supports. And for me, Wimbledon was both. So yes, I'm not a Bournemouth fan. I grew up in Bournemouth. I've got plenty of friends who are Bournemouth fans, and the last few years they've really kicked on into the Premier League. They're a smaller team, but they're really punching above their weight. I love to see them do well, but no, that is not my team. Wimbledon is my team. So anyway, back to Tampa in 2012. In April 2012, I flew out for a week. Carolyn and I, it was nervy, to be honest. You know, although we'd FaceTimed, she met me at Tampa Airport. We both obviously really liked each other. I spent a week here where it was really good to see, you know, the less touristy side of Florida. You know, Carolyn grew up in Tampa. She's from Long Island originally in New York, but she grew up in Tampa, and it was great to see her world, her life. You know, everything I saw on the movies, like the yellow school buses, and you know, just the suburban way of life, the streets. You know, the trick-or-treating at Halloween and all that stuff. I was going to learn all of this over the next year. As after the first week, I came back. I think it was about 2 months later. I came back for 2 weeks, and then I came back for 3 weeks, and Carolyn came to see me, and as the months progressed, things were getting really serious, and yeah, we were obviously in a long distance relationship, and we were really trying to figure out how on earth we were going to make all of this work. And to be honest, guys, this was really, really not going to work for me. As much as I like Carolyn, I saw so many obstacles, honestly, not just with immigration, but I loved it here, but I still couldn't see myself living here at that point. You know, I was never somebody that saw myself living overseas, or somebody that would ever just kind of emigrate, really. It wasn't something I ever thought was going to be on my radar. I was always a bit of a home bird. I love where I came from. You know, I loved my life back in England. I had such a big social circle. I had so many friends, and yeah, obviously all of my family was there. And as much as I was coming out here and loving it, I still really couldn't see this working. On top of that, Carolyn had kids. So I always get asked, you know, did Carolyn want to come and live with you in England? That was always going to be a lot harder because, you know, she had 3 kids when we met, and I obviously coming here, I was going to transition to being a stepdad. They were 14, 12 and 3 at the time, and I've been their stepdad now for 12 years officially, and they're now 27, 25 and nearly 17. So yeah, luckily they were wonderful kids, really great kids, far better kids than I ever was at their ages, and I've honestly had next to zero issues with them. Of course, you know, I was a bit worried about their dad as well. You know, I was coming over here, and you know, I was a bit worried about how that was going to go. Carolyn was divorced, and you know, she hadn't been divorced too long at that point, and all I was seeing was just red flags, obstacles, hurdles, and actually he's been really good to me over the years as well, and I've been very blessed with him. We've all been on the same page. We've all done the best for the kids, and he's been a great dad. So we, you know, luckily for me at least, things could have been a lot harder. But yeah, that is the reason at least why Carolyn didn't come to England and live with me rather than the other way around, and me living here with Carolyn. Now this is where things got even more complicated, because in the background to me meeting Carolyn, I was really looking for a career change, and I swear things happen for a reason, but I'd been with the same company for 10 years at this point in the UK. I joined them as an apprentice. They're called Travis Perkins. They're a builder's merchant, but what that really means is that they're like a Home Depot basically, but they're really for the trade and not really the general public, but I was in sales. I'd worked my way up to management, but I was like assistant store manager for a few years, and I was really itching to get my own store or just to have a break. And I was 28 or 29 at the time, maybe right on the cusp of turning 29, and I'd saved up a little bit of money, not much, but I'd saved a bit of money up, and I wanted to take a year off. I'd never kind of, I've been working full time ever since I was young, and I really wanted to go to Australia. And as a Brit, you can go to Australia on a work travel visa for a year before you're 30. So I knew that at 30, that was it. Like I had, that was my only real shot. So I'd applied, and I got approved, and I handed my notice in at work and my resignation. And of course, the minute you do that, that's when they start throwing all these promotions at you, all these opportunities. And yeah, they offered me like 4 different branches. They offered me, and the company car and all this stuff, a big raise in wages and everything, in salary, should I say. And yeah, needless to say, I had Carolyn on my mind, I had Australia on my mind, and at that point, I just knew that changes were on the horizon and that I'm not sure my future belongs in England anymore. So obviously Carolyn had mixed feelings on this. One, because I was moving even further away from her. Australia's just near absolutely nowhere. And she wouldn't be able to easily come out there to see me, not just because it's expensive, but because, it was just going to be a bit too far for her. She's not the best flyer, and it wasn't really somewhere that appealed to her at the time, at least. But the plus side of it was that I only got like 4 weeks holiday, 4 weeks vacation from my job every year. I know that sounds a lot to Americans, but to the UK, that's a standard amount of days. I think you get 28 days off paid leave. And obviously I'm running out of that. I'm like, for me to keep coming out here to see Carolyn, it was going to be very tough. But if I was taking a year off, I could go and work in Australia. I could go I could come to Florida on the way to working out there, and it actually freed up a lot of time, meaning that I could come here more regularly. So I came here for 3 months. On the way to Australia, and went out there and saved, and I loved it in Australia, but my heart wasn't there. Like, my head was there. I was earning good money. I was working for a car rental company out there. Luckily I joined a football team out there, soccer team, and yeah, met a bunch of Brits, and one of them said, look, I've got a job here at my car rental company, car hire company, and yeah, we need you to drive, we need you to serve at the airport. I was at the desk at Sydney Airport, Perth Airport, Tasmania. I was all over the place, and it was great. I loved it. I really, really loved it, and it helped me save up and figure out moving here to Florida. So it was certainly an unconventional way of getting here, but it made me build up the courage to live overseas. It gave me and Carolyn more time to develop and grow, and it gave me more opportunities to come back here and really see if we could make this work. So yes, after coming here for 3 months and living together for 3 months, we really got to learn a lot more about each other. We didn't have the luxury of moving in with one another for a couple of years or whatever before, getting engaged or married. We had 3 months, and really that 3 months was going to make or break us. And again, I just kept falling in love with Florida. I just loved it here so much. I love the States, and I actually weirdly felt a lot closer to the UK here, although geographically it is closer than Australia. The time difference is only 5 hours, and that to me was just, I really love that, because in Australia it's like 13 or 15 or something like that, and there's never a good time to call home. The sport that I love, or the sports that I love, they were never on at a good time, and I just felt like I was on the complete other side of the world. I know I was, but you really feel it when you're out there, and it was never a place I could actually see myself living. But here I absolutely loved it, and yeah, so after those 3 months, I went back to Australia, and just for like 2 or 3 months I finished up my year, and then I moved here, and we bit the bullet, and I proposed to Carolyn, and within 60 days we had got married, and at that point we'd been together for 2 years, and yeah, my whole journey, or my whole life, was really going to start unfolding here as a US resident. Now, we didn't have much of a wedding. It was just her and I there and a witness, and it was, you know, it was just going to be it was a registry office service, and we were going to have a proper wedding, you know, an actual celebration further down the road. But we didn't have much money at the time, and to be honest, sadly, it's something we still haven't done. We've tried planning it a couple of times, but we've had every time we've gone to actually plan it, there's been something that's gotten in the way. There was once when my dad got really sick, and we had to postpone it, and we just never actually moved forward with it. So it's something you might see me arrange in the future, but we haven't had a proper ceremony yet. But I have to say, guys, the first year of moving here was really difficult for me. I really struggled. The main reason was I couldn't work. You know, if you come here as an immigrant, you have to get a work visa, and I couldn't work for the first, I think it was like first 10 or 11 months, and I was going out of my mind. I'd always worked. It's always been such a good purpose for me, and it keeps me focused and disciplined, and the minute I'm not working, I just feel useless and worthless, and so I was just racking my brains of what I was going to do. You know, I felt like I was wasting a lot of time. Honestly, in that period, I could have moved back to England so many times, because I felt lost. I felt just really out of place. And every time we had a hard day, it was like, this isn't going to work out. This isn't going to work out. Trust me, this was not an easy journey. It really wasn't. You know, there was a lot of things that I had to adapt to, and of course, you miss your friends, you miss your family at that point, you miss your comforts and everything. And but yeah, we got through it. You know, I did a little bit of work, just you know, under the table for people back in England, online and stuff like that. And I got my real estate license. And although I wasn't going to go into real estate full time, first of all, I actually was really blessed and kind of fell into the industry, and it's just been such a blessing to me over the past 10 years or so. And I really don't want to talk too much about real estate, but I actually came here to the States with, I don't want to say a lack of ambition, but I certainly didn't come here with this big American dream that I was going to live this wonderful life and you know, earn all this money and everything. I was very grounded when I came here, mainly because I was still learning the culture, right? I was still learning the lay of the land. I didn't really understand a lot of things, and it's an intimidating country to come to, guys. I promise you, if you come here, obviously this is all normal to you, and it's normal to me now that I've lived here so long, but everything's just huge here, right? The cars, the roads, the food, the portions, the houses, you name it, everything is just ginormous. And it's intimidating when you come here for the first time and, you know, you're trying to find your feet. And I was just going to get like a normal kind of office job. I was looking in for like insurance companies. I was looking at just anything for like another stable career like I'd had in the UK. I was going to do something similar. And I was applying for jobs, and again, come back to how blessed I've been with football teams and soccer teams. I played for this team in Brandon, just in the Tampa suburbs, and it was basically Brits versus South Americans in like pickup games every Sunday. And this guy on my team, Chris, he said to me, literally 3 days after I got my real estate license, you know, I got it, and I had no intention on going into it full time whatsoever. I didn't really. I wanted some time to learn the States first and learn about real estate more. I just wanted more time, to be honest. And he said, "Oh, you just got your real estate license, didn't you?" And I was like, yeah. And he said, "Great, I need you to sell my house." And I literally looked at him and said, "Oh, you don't want me? I haven't got a clue what I'm doing." And he said, "Oh, you'll be fine." And thankfully, he had a lot more faith in me than I did of myself at the time, right? So I sold his home and I helped him buy another home. And before you know it, I'd started to basically put in motion the business practices that my office was telling me to do, and meeting new people and cold calling, door knocking, everything you can think of to really meet some new people, open houses, all that good stuff. And yeah, I think I sold 8 homes in my first 18 months, and it was keeping me going. I was doing pretty well, and then from there it really just took off. And like I said, I really don't want to make this too much about real estate, but gosh, the industry has been so good to me. You know, there's nowhere in the world that just rewards hard work and professionalism like the US. And I know that's a real old cliche saying it's the land of opportunity here, but it's so, so true. And I don't feel like many Americans appreciate it, to be honest. There's just opportunity everywhere, and there's so many people that are willing to give you a shot and hear you out and hear what your services are and really give you that shot of trying to sell or offer whatever it is that you're trying to make a business out of. You can see behind me here, we've got the Kissing statue. Gosh, I love it here in Sarasota. It's such a beautiful city. We've got the harbour here, Bayfront Park. Just love this spot. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. So yes, I've met hundreds of people, and I kind of had this limited belief of when I moved here that I was just going to be hanging around with Brits here, you know, and I wasn't going to meet many American friends. But it's been completely the opposite, to be honest. Well, not completely the opposite, but the Brits that I hang out with, they've all adapted to the culture here so well, and they've lived in the UK a long time, and they've lived in the US a long time. And you know, I went out for drinks with my neighbour last night, and he's just so funny. Like he always shouts at me when I'm walking the dog in the mornings. He's honestly become one of my best friends. But he always shouts at me. He always says, "ICE haven't got you yet," and he's always saying like ICE are going to kick me out of the country. But yeah, I've got some great friends here, and you know, one of the other things that I haven't mentioned is, you know, saying how good Florida's been to me. You know, I was never a homeowner in the UK, and I bought my first home here about 5 years after I moved here, 4 years after I moved here. And honestly, I don't think Americans realise how hard it is in Europe to be a homeowner. It's not easy at all. And here, you know, I know people moan about the housing market and whine about prices and stuff, but I bought my first home here after living here 4 years. And although I was a bit more dedicated to my work in my 30s when I moved here than what I was with my huge social life in the UK, if I'd have stayed in the UK for another 4 years, I don't think I would have been a homeowner. And if I was, I would have lived in a tiny little apartment or flat above a shop or something. It wouldn't have been anything nice. But this is my first home that I'd ever owned. This right here. And although this is in a different location to where I live now, this was in the Tampa suburbs, this house is just, I couldn't have ever dreamed of living in a home as beautiful as this. And this home was so good to me. If I could have picked it up and brought it with me, I would have done. But gosh, yes, this house here, 11425 Leland Groves Drive, it was an absolute dream for me in 2018 when we bought it. And we sold it on for good money, and we've moved to a better area now. I much prefer where we live. But you know, that just looking at that house, I've got a picture of it at home because it reminds me of just how far I've come and how blessed I am, and how good Florida has been to me. So yeah, that is pretty much, guys, my journey of how I ended up here in 2026 in Sarasota, Florida, and it's been a journey. But Carolyn and I are doing as well as we've been. You know, our marriage is great. The kids are doing good. You know, we've been a bit unfortunate. You know, we tried for kids ourselves and it didn't work out for us. But you know, it wasn't meant to be. But I'm blessed in so many other ways in life, with family and friends and just where I live. I absolutely love it. And yeah, you know, the show goes on, so to speak. You know, I'm in my early 40s now. It's funny, you know, because I see a lot of influencers online doing a lot of content about the US and the UK and all the rest of it and all the kind of culture differences, and it does cross my mind at times. I think, I could do a channel like that. I could do an Instagram, I could do YouTube, just talking about the funny things that separate, you know, that are just there between the two cultures. And I'd love to do stuff on travel, on, you know, current affairs, just things that make life very different between the US and the UK. But for now, I'm just going to focus on my own business because that keeps me more than busy and occupied enough. And And you know, the other thing is, the other reason I don't do a lot of those videos talking about the US and the UK and stuff is because I feel like I've been here too long. You know, there's a lot of things that I found absolutely hilarious when I first moved here, things that really shocked me, things that I was just like, wow, that is, you know, this cannot be real, this cannot be serious and stuff, you know, just funny things, like all sorts of things. But now they're all so normal to me that I feel like if I was to do that sort of content, it wouldn't come across as good as what it would with other people. But I may do something like that one day, you know, when I retire or something. Maybe I could do something on the side. I'd love to do something on travel. You know, there's so much of the US I haven't seen yet. I'm going on a road trip next week to Indiana because my sister-in-law is getting married. She lives there, never been there. I'm going through Tennessee, going through Kentucky, and then going to Indiana. And it's a part of the States I haven't been, and I cannot wait. But I also have visions of showing you guys more of the UK and things that you probably don't know about. So maybe that's for the future. But anyway, let me know in the comments your thoughts on if I should do more content like that. And if you have any questions on my journey, please put them in the comments. I'll be glad to answer anything. For anyone that's watching this from overseas, from the UK, you know, I feel like the US gets a really bad rap in the media from not just the UK but from Europe as well. I feel like they really look down their nose on the States, especially since Trump's been in. And you know, it's not safe here and all the rest of it. You know, it's just not a place you want to be. It's been absolutely everything to me, and yeah, you won't see me leaving here anytime soon. I'm a US citizen now. I got my US citizenship in 2022 during COVID, so it was all a bit weird. I don't have any photos of it or anything. You know, it was all masks and all the rest of it. But yeah, you know, very, very proud to get that too. And yeah, as English as I am, as I said before, and I've still got my accent for the most part, I'm very proud to be an American citizen as well. And yeah, like I said, guys, any comments or anything, please leave them below, and maybe I'll do more content like this in the future. Take care.